Mayank Gupta from LPL Financial. I am Senior Vice President leading the data group at LPL Financial Technology. We're using Neo to essentially group entities together. So we have a lot of accounts that have persons associated with those accounts. It could be the advisor, the account holder, secondary beneficiary. And what we're doing is using our graph to house this data and to sort of construct different types of groups so that we could consolidate alerts and do a more efficient reach out if in case there is a fraud alert or any kind of notification that we need to work with our users. Graphs are an incredibly powerful structure. And really, Neo4j brought us, I think, three key advantages. One was that the data modeling can be iterative without really breaking older use cases. So you can sort of layer in nodes and edges and relationships onto an existing graph, grow it both in terms of its scope of data as well as the scope of its meaning very, very iteratively. And that allows us to work faster, better. I think a lot of our problems, because the relationships can be very convoluted, are better served with graph constructs than they are with relational stores. So those are our main drivers for using Neo4j. I think for us, we got two secondary benefits that we were not planning on, but perhaps had thought about. We started to see data quality issues because of centrality of certain nodes. And we also started to see, to create a system that gave us a historical path, right? So John started as an advisor, opened up these accounts, moved to a different group, moved those accounts over to under that group, or Joe as an investor, opened that account, closed it, consolidated into a different one. So that change history and being able to visualize that change history and find that path very quickly were very powerful secondary benefits that we derived from it. Yeah, I think two or three things. One is understand graphs as a data structure. I know all of us in comp sci and in school and college went through these, but I don't know if, at least for me personally, the applications were difficult to see. We all learned about the traveling salesman and so on, but how that can apply to other business problems was crucial. So my initial introduction to graphs was through this book called NoSQL Distilled. And it really talked about graphs as a structure and the emerging databases there. So definitely learn about graph and graph theory. I think it's deeply, deeply powerful. And it starts to make that shift of relational models, because most folks think in terms of models, to instance data and connections between instances and dynamic connections between instances. I think the second thing is to learn the tool set from Neo4j. There are really very few graph databases, and to me, from an enterprise scale, enterprise level, Neo is the only one. Many people have tried, and it just hasn't worked, right? So really learn the tooling. Out of the box, Neo4j comes with a great browser, in my opinion, right? It's something that you can query, you can visualize off of it. Start to get into that, definitely, right? And I think the final advice I would give is really around iteration. You're not going to get a perfect model. It's not going to be a waterfall style project where you'll have everything well defined. You're going to iterate and you're going to make a lot of mistakes and you have to make changes. But understand that the graph is actually making it easy for you to do that. I think those would be my key advice to anybody starting out. The knowledge graph. We really think, so if you look at Google and how good they have become at search, there's a deep amount of obviously underlying engineering on systems and data gathering, right? Crawling the web, as it were. But they've turned that into an internal knowledge graph that is driving the majority of their search results, right? I think there's 57 steps that they take typically, different algorithms they call, and half of them are against a knowledge graph. So that, to me, a knowledge graph that is specific to our user base, to our company, is going to be mind-blowing. I cannot imagine that if I can get this to work, I think there's so many applications and benefits to derive from that for us, for our users.